20 minutes. That's all it took for a routine Caribbean patrol to transform into one of the most sophisticated naval engagements in modern history. 4 Russian-made hypersonic missiles screaming toward an American destroyer at 3.5 times the speed of sound. 2 Venezuelan Su-30 fighter jets betting everything on a single devastating strike, and 90 seconds that would prove whether a $2 billion warship could survive what was designed specifically to destroy it. What happened next didn't just save 300 American sailors, it sent shockwaves through military circles worldwide and taught Venezuela an expensive lesson about challenging American naval power. This is the real story of technology versus tactics, preparation versus desperation, and why you never bet against the United States Navy. Buckle up, because this engagement rewrote the rules of modern warfare. 350 kilometers above Earth, America's KH-11 reconnaissance satellite captured something deeply concerning at Venezuela's La Orchila Air Base. Activity was surging. 2 Su-30MK2 flanker fighters were being prepared. Not for training, but for combat. Hanging beneath their wings were KH-31 supersonic anti-ship missiles, live weapons, combat-ready, specifically designed to destroy vessels protected by the world's most advanced defense systems. The message was unmistakable. Venezuela was about to cross a line that nations rarely dare to approach. Meanwhile, cutting through the azure waters of the Caribbean, the USS Thomas Hudner maintained its course. This Arleigh Burke-class destroyer represented more than just American naval power. It was a $2 billion technological marvel, a floating fortress embodying decades of military innovation. At its heart beat the Aegis combat system, arguably the most sophisticated naval defense network ever created. Its mission that day? A freedom of navigation patrol. Routine, predictable, almost boring. But the U.S. Navy doesn't do routine the way others do. 500 kilometers away, an E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft orbited, its distinctive radar dish rotating continuously. This airborne sentinel served as the destroyer's extended eyes, capable of detecting threats long before the ship's own sensors could engage. At 14:10 hours, the Hawkeye's screens lit up. 2 contacts taking off from La Orchila. Flight path, direct intercept course, weapon loadout, confirmed hostile. The clock started ticking. 20 minutes until potential contact. 20 minutes that would determine whether Venezuela's gambit would succeed or fail spectacularly. Deep within the Hudner's hull, the Combat Information Center hummed with controlled intensity. The AN/SPY radar system painted the sky with invisible waves, creating a 3-dimensional bubble of awareness extending hundreds of kilometers in every direction. And now that bubble contained 2 very unwelcome guests. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare system began analyzing electromagnetic signatures. Within seconds, the combat information officer's voice cut through the ambient noise, cold and precise. Identity confirmed. 2 Venezuelan Su-30s, bearing 090, distance 50 miles. Electronic support measures confirm KH-31P anti-ship missiles armed and active. The atmosphere shifted instantly. This wasn't an exercise. 2 fighter jets carrying weapons specifically engineered to sink American warships were closing fast. The KH-31P represented a serious threat, capable of reaching Mach 3.5 and equipped with sea-skimming capability. These missiles were designed to evade detection until the last possible moment. They were designed to kill American destroyers, and now they were pointed directly at one. Then it happened. The code word every sailor dreads echoed through the combat center. Vampire, vampire. Enemy anti-ship missiles inbound. On tactical displays, 2 new contacts separated from the Su-30s, their icons turning hostile red as they accelerated to attack speed. 2 spears of metal and explosive nearly 5 meters long, hurtling across the water at incomprehensible velocities. Venezuela had crossed the red line. This wasn't posturing anymore. This was an act of war, a calculated provocation designed to humiliate American naval power in international waters. But Venezuela's commanders had made a fatal miscalculation. They believed the element of surprise would give them the upper hand. They were catastrophically wrong. The Aegis system had been tracking this scenario from the moment those Su-30s began their takeoff roll. Every variable calculated, every response prepared. The USS Thomas Hudner didn't fire immediately. Instead, the SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite activated, creating a sophisticated dance of deception. The system detected active radar signals from the approaching missile's seekers and did something extraordinary. It captured those signals, manipulated them, and reflected them back, creating a false image of the ship's location. Simultaneously, the Mark 36 SRBOC system erupted, launching a barrage of chaff and flares. The sky exploded with false targets. Clouds of metallic chaff created massive radar returns. High-temperature flares generated thermal signatures bright enough to blind infrared sensors. The real ship became a ghost lost in a storm of electronic phantoms. The result was immediate and devastating for Venezuela. One KH-31 missile, its guidance system completely fooled, locked onto a false target. It veered off course, diving toward empty water where it thought the destroyer was located. Seconds later, it impacted the ocean surface kilometers away from its intended victim. First threat neutralized. No ammunition expended. Pure electronic warfare genius. But the second missile proved more resilient. Its programming was sophisticated. Its seeker resistant to countermeasures. It pushed through the invisible wall of deception, damaged and confused, but still coming. 25 seconds to impact. 30 kilometers out and closing at Mach 3.5. The missile entered the engagement envelope of the Hudner's next defense layer. In the Mark 41 vertical launch system, a Standard Missile 6 received its firing solution. This $4 million interceptor represented the cutting edge of missile defense technology. The launch hatch blew open and the SM-6 rocketed skyward on a pillar of smoke and flame, its engine driving it to altitudes exceeding 30 kilometers. Then, reaching the apex of its trajectory, it pitched over and dove, accelerating past Mach 3.5 in a nearly vertical attack profile. At 20 kilometers from the ship, Hunter met prey. The collision was apocalyptic. Both missiles vaporized in a violent explosion, their metallic remains scattering across the sky. $4 million to save 2,300,000,000 lives. In combat, there's no such thing as an expensive solution. Only effective ones. For most nations, 2 failed missile attacks would signal the end of a very bad idea. But Venezuela's commanders, driven by desperation or pride, decided to escalate. Taking advantage of the chaos, the 2 Su-30s launched their remaining weapons. 2 more KH-31 missiles dropped from their pylons and ignited, accelerating toward the destroyer. This was cunning tactics, exploiting the gap created by the first engagement. They were now inside the minimum range of the SM-6, only 15 kilometers out. Impact in less than 12 seconds. No time for another long-range intercept. They were entering the kill zone of the evolved Sea Sparrow missile system. Different vertical launch cells opened, but instead of single large missiles, each cell contained 4 compact interceptors. 4 ESSMs launched almost simultaneously, their exhaust trails drawing white arcs across the Caribbean sky. The ESSM is engineering poetry, capable of Mach 4 speeds and 50G maneuvers. One locked onto the third KH-31, making split-second adjustments to match evasive maneuvers. The interception was surgical, a direct hit that vaporized the threat. The fourth KH-31 took a hit from another ESSM, but this engagement was messy. The Venezuelan missile's seeker was destroyed, but the weapon itself, 500 kilograms of metal, fuel, and explosive, remained intact, tumbling toward the ship at ballistic velocity. 5 kilometers out, 5 seconds to impact. When all else fails, the U.S. Navy has one final answer: the close-in weapon system. The CIWS is brutally simple but devastatingly effective. Its independent radar locked onto the tumbling wreckage. Its fire control computer calculated a solution in milliseconds. Then the 6-barrel Vulcan Gatling gun opened fire. 4,500 rounds per minute. 75 rounds every second. Solid tungsten armor-piercing bullets. The stream of tungsten tore into the disabled missile like a buzzsaw, shredding it into progressively smaller fragments. What had been a 500-kilogram guided missile became a cloud of harmless debris scattering across the ocean surface. Silence fell over the combat center. 4 modern Russian-made anti-ship missiles were now wreckage on the Caribbean seafloor. The 2 Su-30s, finally understanding the magnitude of their failure, turned and fled toward Venezuelan airspace. Total engagement time, 90 seconds. Damage to USS Thomas Hudner, 0. 4 missiles defeated, 0 hits, complete victory. This wasn't just successful defense. It was a demonstration, a carefully controlled exhibition of what happens when second-tier military powers challenge American naval supremacy. Every attack was anticipated, every missile defeated, every tactic countered. The technology gap wasn't just significant, it was insurmountable. But technology alone didn't win this engagement. The sailors aboard the Hudner executed their duties with cold professionalism that comes from tens of thousands of hours of training. Every button press, every command, every decision was textbook perfect. As the destroyer continued its patrol, military analysts worldwide studied the engagement with intense interest. The lessons were profound. Modern naval warfare is chess played at supersonic speeds. Venezuela's Su-30s and Kh-31 missiles weren't obsolete. They were modern, capable systems that would threaten most naval forces. But against the layered defenses of an Aegis-equipped destroyer connected to America's global sensor network, they never stood a chance. The engagement proved something military theorists long suspected. In 21st century warfare, never challenge those who wrote the rules. 5 layers of defense, 4 missiles defeated, 1 stunning victory. This wasn't war. This was a masterclass. Subscribe to see how American military technology dominates modern warfare, because these stories prove preparation always beats provocation.